Welcome to Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff, where we interview newsmakers, storytellers, and all-around interesting people. Sit back, relax, unless you're driving, and enjoy the show. Here's Jackson.
Hello. I am Jackson Huff. This is Not in a Huff. Thanks so much for joining me. Appreciate it as always. Another great week for you. I am interviewing Chez Starbuck. Now, before I kind of go into a little bit more about him, maybe you hear the name, you're like, oh yeah, I know him. Super pumped for the interview. But if you don't, let me tell you just a little bit about how I decided to go on a search to interview him or someone in his area. Just like a lot of people, been scrolling through Disney Plus and really enjoying some of those old Disney Channel original movies that I grew up watching. You know, when I was growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, seems like every Friday, or at least one Friday a month, there was a new Disney Channel original movie. There was a song for it and everything. But they almost all were pretty darn good. You know, looking back, they're kind of goofy and some of the plots were kind of silly, but they were all just kind of a part of nostalgia, part of my childhood. You know how much I like, getting nostalgic and talking to people who was part of my childhood and part of a lot of other people's as well. So Chez Starbuck is exactly that. He was the star of a Disney Channel original movie. His was the 13th Year. We're going to talk about exactly what the 13th Year is about, if you hadn't seen it. But I've just really enjoyed kind of seeing some of those nostalgic movies. I've watched quite a few of them now that Disney Plus is a thing. Some of them I thought, oh my gosh, I forgot all about that. But this was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. So it was just really interesting to talk to him. Over 20 years later, he didn't stay in acting. He stayed in acting a little bit after this movie, but he left after that. We'll talk all about why he decided to leave acting and what he is doing now. We're going to talk a lot about how he got into acting to begin with. We're going to talk about the movie and what it was like being a Disney Channel star for a couple years. And he a lot of really, really interesting things about the acting profession, about how Disney operates, about how it is to be in a movie when you didn't really come from a ton of acting before that. It was a really, really cool conversation. I think you'll enjoy this one. I think you'll really like to hear from him if this is part of your childhood as well. And then just his story of overcoming several different adversities when it comes to dyslexia and a few other things. So I think that you'll enjoy this one and you'll like to hear exactly what he's up to now. So without further ado, here is my interview with Chez Starbuck. I am here today with Chez Starbuck. Chez, how are you?
Good to meet you, man. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Oh, for sure. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. So yeah, the first thing I want to talk about is your name. We were just talking about it before we started recording, but Chez Starbuck, that is, I guess, kind of was your stage name when you were acting. Your actual name is, I assume that it has some kind of, I guess, connection to maybe, I don't know, a Latin connection. I'm not sure exactly what it is.
No, yeah. So my whole name is Cesare Starnella. A lot of, when I was growing up, nobody knew how to say Cesare so, and it's spelled Cesaray. So everybody would, the teachers and stuff like that, they would call me Cesare or Cesara or Quesare. So then I just, decided to cut it short and make it Chez, so everybody could say Chez. And then people started calling me Chez because Chez is French. But anyways, Chez stuck with me. And my mother's family's name is Starbuck. So my agent at the time thought it was really catchy just to have my mom's last name instead of Starnella and keep Chez. So Chez Starbuck became my stage name. Easier to say, pretty catchy because everybody drinks Starbucks. So so it worked out.
That makes sense. Yeah, and given that the two names are kind of similar, I made the mistake when I was first emailing you. I kind of combine them. So do you ever get people with trying to type Starnella?
Yeah, it's weird with names, and when you have difficult names or weird names that people try to combine them or don't know how to say them, so it always comes out wrong. So I'm pretty used to my name going wrong.
Right. No, I understand that. My grandmother is from Germany. Her name is Gisela. Our favorite story is she had someone call like a telemarketer and say, yes, is Godzilla there? No, Godzilla's not here. So yeah, no, I can understand that. So where did Cesare come from? What's the roots behind that? I don't know that I've heard that before.
Oh, so there's a movie that's called The Idol Maker, and it was in the 80s, and it's about an opera singer. And my mom and my I have some uncles and stuff like that sang opera, and my mom loved opera, and she thought that I was going to be an opera singer. And so she loved that movie, The Idol Maker, and the lead in The Idol Maker, his name is Cesare. And so she saw his name on lights in the movie and said, that's what my son's name is going to be. But the real, it's basically Caesar with an AY, but it's a Sicilian name.
My name comes from a movie too, so I understand that. But believe it or not, I didn't get you on just to talk all about your name. So let's talk about I guess what we know you from. But before that, I think we met you kind of as maybe an older adolescent, young teenager. But how did you get involved in acting? I think you were in some commercials and a kids news show, if I'm not mistaken, before we really saw you in the Disney movie.
Yeah, just acting wasn't something that was like really on my radar at all when I was growing up. My brother did a lot of fashion modeling, and for me, I was like, I didn't really like to modeling or being in front of the camera at all. And then we moved to Las Vegas from Colorado. I moved there when I was 13. So when I was 14 years old, me and some friends that I had made there, they had this big thing at the mall. So they were having a Starbuck, no, I'm sorry, a Subway eating contest. So we were just going there to eat free subs, to tell you the truth. And so when we went to the mall, I was like, oh, I'm just going to eat a whole bunch of free subs. And you can pick any sub that you want. But at the same time, in the food court where they're having that eating competition, there was about 1,000 kids sitting in a whole bunch of chairs. And I was like, damn, I wonder what the hell's going on over there. So I looked, and they're auditioning for a kids news program show for Channel 8. And the host of that was going to interview everybody that came to Las Vegas. So Bette Midler, Carrot Top, anybody that was going to be performing, they wanted a couple kids hosts. And so while I was waiting for my turn to eat subs, my friends were like, I bet you won't go do that. And it's weird because I had dyslexia really bad when I was a kid. So I developed a talent to memorize everything. So if you gave me something, I would look at it and I could memorize it. And that all became because when I was in school, I would memorize the chapters that we were going to read. And I counted how many kids were in front of me, and each person would read a paragraph. So I'd know exactly what paragraph I was going to end up reading, and I would have it memorized so I didn't sound like I couldn't read. So when I went to do that audition, they gave me the script and I just memorized it. And so when I went up there, they had this teleprompter and they said, just tell us how slow or fast you want it. And I said, I don't care because I have it all memorized. And the producer was like, you have this memorized? And I said, yeah, I have the whole script memorized. And he said, go for it. So I just did my audition in front of, all the kids and the producers. And as soon as I was done, they said, you got the job. And they said, we have to finish auditioning the rest of these kids, but we want you to be the host of Kids News on Channel 8. So that's how it got started. And then Disney, 2 years later, because I was on Channel 8 for 2 years as the host. And then Disney had contacted them asking me to come and audition for the 13th Year. And so I took my Volkswagen van and I drove to California, and I was in the room and I memorized the script, and there was a whole bunch of other like famous kids there that I recognized from like Disney Channel and other movies. And I was like, oh, I don't know why I'm here. Like Jonathan Taylor Thomas is sitting over here. That kid that starred in what was that? Jack Frost was there. There's like a whole bunch of like Disney kids at the time auditioning for it. So I just went in and read for it, and then I was leaving to go back to my van, and the casting director's assistant ran out and stopped me, and he said, we really want you to come to the second round of auditions. And I said, okay, not a problem. And they said, you're going to be swimming. Do you know how to swim? Do you know how to dive? And I was like, yeah, I'm on the diving team back in Las Vegas. So the next day, we went to this Olympic swimming pool, and they said what's going to make it is who could hold their breath the longest and how fast you can swim there and back. That was going to be the big thing, but I think it was more about holding your breath, because half of those water scenes, you had a breathalyzer. I mean, like scuba diving breath gear in, and you had to take it out of your mouth and be able to hold your breath for about 2 minutes while they filmed those scenes. So you had to be able to hold your breath. If you couldn't hold your breath, then you couldn't film it. So I just told myself, there was about 5 of us that were in the swimming pool, and they said, you go underwater and hold your breath. And I just told myself that, I said, no matter what, I'm just going to hold my breath until every single person surfaces. And then I'm going to be the last person in the swimming pool. And that's what I did. I think I held my breath for about 3 minutes and 10 seconds. And everybody else came up around 2 minutes. So I held it for another, minute and 10 seconds after everybody else came up. And then we swam the swimming pool. And by the time that they went to the end of it, I had already came back. So it was pretty much a done deal after that second audition.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So a couple of things I want to kind of talk about, based on what you just mentioned. One, the glaring thing is you're talking about driving your Volkswagen van. It means that you were not actually in your 13th year, I'm assuming.
No, yeah, I was 16 years old, and I had to shave my arms. When I was doing that, I had to shave my legs. I had to look like I was 13, but I was small when I did that movie. I was maybe 5'3" or 5'4", and then it was when I was 17, I had like this huge growth spurt, and I sprouted up to 6 feet. And then by the time I was, 18, I was 6'3". So it was that I just got caught in that perfect time frame when I was small enough that I could have done the movie.
I've listened to a few other interviews with you, and the things that people have glossed over. One, you talk about that Subway contest. Did you actually get to eat any subs, or did this thing ruin it for you?
No,
you didn't get any.
Yeah, I didn't actually get to eat any subs because because when I was going up to do the monologue that they had prepared on the teleprompter, it was at the same time that I could have gone and ate my subs. But I mean, I just wanted free subs, but I had money. So I mean, I actually just went to Panda Express afterwards, but but yeah, no, I didn't get to eat those damn subs, man. And I would have, because that's actually one of my favorite things is eating contests. And they have tons of them out here in Texas. And any chance I get to go to one where it's like the hottest hamburger or how many burritos or something you can eat, I go for it, because I love eating contests.
That's awesome. Well, you're going to get yourself stuck next time, and you're going to have to be in another movie or something. So just be careful. No. So the other thing too, you got that job on the kids news show, and we're doing it for 2 years, like you said. I mean, what was that experience like? You said that about interviewing Bette Midler and Carrot Top. That's pretty cool too. How was that?
Yeah, well, so there ended up being 3 of us on the show. They picked me to do the interview part, mainly because I told them that I was that reading off the teleprompter wasn't my thing. So I didn't have. I mean, everything that they gave me, I would have to memorize it. So they're like, okay, you can do the interviews. And I was always really good at just making stuff up on the fly. So the interview parts was really, really fun. I got to go to every show that was in Las Vegas for free. I went to any of the, the Blue Man Group, Cirque du Soleil. I did I did those interviews with the people that made them, some of their stars. I love jumping on the trampoline. So during that interview, I was able to show off some of my trampoline skills. But then, Carrot Top was awesome. Bette Midler was cool. And, anybody that they wanted me to Siegfried and Roy, I met them. Yeah, the 2 years that I was there really helped me out a lot from being camera shy. So there was, I was always in front of, more than just a camera person and a lighting person. There was lots of people there. So if you can get used to talking around 20 people, 20, 30 people that are in a room, then going to movies when there's 100 people on set wasn't a big leap. All my nerves, they were already gone by the time I started doing auditions. And so it was very easy. I wasn't afraid to go into the audition room. And that's where I think a lot of people, they sort of fail at, is they start acting instead of just be themselves and read the lines. It's because you're nervous and you're scared and you're waiting to respond instead of listening to what the person says and then just do your job. So yeah, those 2 years were very, were amazing to me actually being able to act.
That would definitely be a crash course in being able to be in front of a camera, which I'm sure served you well later on. So for those who, let's talk about the movie, 13th Year. For those who have not seen it, whether because there's a wide variety to listen to this, so maybe they're too young or they're too old. But tell us just briefly what the movie was about, a brief synopsis.
Yeah, so the 13th Year was about a boy that when he turned 13, he sprouted fins and turned into a merman instead of a mermaid, obviously. And then, he was on land and he started sprouting fins every time he touched the water, and he was coming to grasps with being a merman. And then by the end, he decided that he needed to go back to the sea. But it's just a Disney original movie that worked, at the time. The reason why they didn't do another one is because it cost too much to make that movie. Right. They went over budget a lot.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was going to ask you about that, about those budgets. Because back then, I think this came out in 1999 or something close to that. And back then they were just cranking out these Disney Channel original movies, like all the time. So I just wondered what kind of budget was normally behind them. Was it something where they actually put some budget behind it, or was it totally just like, let's just crank these out as cheap as we can and move on to the next one?
Yeah, basically that was it. I think that their budget might have been, what I heard it was around $1 million for it. Wow. Especially because like the CGI and stuff, but they went over budget, and I think it was like $2.5 million to make it. So, even though it was like at that time, it was the highest watched Disney Channel original movie at the time. I guess it was just too much for Disney to make another one. And so that they sort of they scrapped it. But, Disney after that kept me working for a long time, traveling the United States and doing Disney road shows. And I mean, that was just a lot of fun. I got to meet all the, like Justin Timberlake and all those people that were in the Mickey Mouse Club. So they would all do performances and I would get to introduce them. And then we would do a Mickey and Minnie show, and then, do interviews, and then, meet and greets and stuff like that. But we traveled the United States for, I don't know, another year after the movie came out.
Tell us just a little bit about the overall experience of being in the movie, maybe some things that would surprise us about the process, anything like that.
Well, if you're going to be in movies, if you want to be, it's a lot of sitting around. So you sit around most of the time. When it comes to acting, even if you don't have acting skills, I would say that 80% of actors, it's based about their looks. So if they fit the part, they get the role. It also is who they know. When it comes to the acting, you don't have to be a great actor. They will hire you acting coaches that are going to work with you on set to get the phrases and the way they want you to say stuff out. So all these, people that are going to Hollywood and trying to become actors, it's not about you actually being able to say the words right when you're in the audition room. If you look exactly like that part needs to look, then you're going to get the job. And then also is, like I said, if you know people, if you know casting directors, they'll cast you and stuff. And it's not about the acting. So that was one thing that I learned when I was on set, was that I didn't have to say it right, because they're going to have somebody tell me exactly how they wanted to say it. And then you sit around for most of the time. And then being 16, I had to get, I had to have class as well. So you wake up at 4 a.m., you go on set, then you have to do your schoolwork because you're not in school and you have to do your schoolwork. And then you just basically sit around for, 14, 15 hours. And then the time that you're actually acting is only probably a couple hours of that. So most of the time you're sitting in your trailer or going to school or eating. I ate a lot there. And then, it was just trying to develop relationships so you can be in something else. And then green screen was something else that was really cool that I didn't know about. So like me, when I was hoisted up on the ceiling, I was sitting on a scaffolding, right, in a chair, and I just held my feet on the ceiling. So half of those scenes that you see, or in a lot of movies, the entire room is green, and then they just put in what it needs to look like. So that was really funny to me. I'm like sitting on this big chair hoisted up to the ceiling, or I'm doing this, and I'm like, how is this even possible? And then when you watch it, you're like, oh my God, that's so cool. I didn't know that if it was green, that they could just edit it completely out. At that time, I had no clue that that's how it worked. But yeah, what acting is just it's a different animal. I didn't really, I enjoyed the movie, and then I did a couple things after, but it really wasn't for me.
And that is always kind of an interesting thing. I think everyone, when they hear people who leave the acting world, everyone's like, oh, why? But I do think that it probably takes a certain type of person. And if you have passions beyond that, then I guess there's no reason to keep chasing it, because it doesn't sound like it's necessarily the easiest thing to be involved in all the time.
Well, I mean, it's like anything else. It's a business. So that's how you want to make your money. For me, when I was traveling with Disney, I got a little bit of taste of when I was hanging out with other people, or I was going down in New York, and then a whole bunch of kids would be chasing me down the street because they recognized me from the movie. Any of that being recognized stuff, I didn't really like that. Another thing is, with acting, people think that you're going to make a ton of money being an actor. You have to you got 45% of your check goes to California, right? And then you have 10% that goes to your agent, another 10% that goes to your manager. So, and then if you have a publicist, you got another 5 to 8% that goes to your publicist. So, but if you made $100,000, if that's what you got for it, then you might walk away with $25,000 of it. And then that has to carry you into your next project, right? So you have to book something within a couple months. So you're basically living paycheck to paycheck unless you're an A-list actor. Even then, you make $5 million, and then you might walk away with $1 million of it. And so people think that, people are making all this money. And it's true if you're a Robert Downey Jr. or something like that. And I realized that when I was in my 20s, and then I started my own businesses, and I was like, I need to make real money, and I want it consistent, and I want to live a certain lifestyle, and I can't do it just hoping that I get another job in the next couple months. So, a lot of people that are in the industry, they'll be a waiter until they think they hit it big. But, it's just all the wait. It's all a waiting game. And most of the time you're stressed out. And the ones that are really making it, that's like 1% of the people on earth, 1%. And there's how many people live in California? What, you got millions and millions of people. And I would say 15 million people want to be an actor, and 1% of the 1% is going to actually make it. Yeah. So you have a lot of waiters and hostesses and bus boys that are trying to do those auditions. And that's just something that I couldn't afford to take the risk on.
Yeah. And I don't know whether it's the case with Disney, but I've talked to some child stars that were in things on Nickelodeon. So I guess the other kids channel, but they talked about how as a child star, and I think you kind of alluded to it, they kind of, for I guess a lack of a better word, kind of just used up the talent, didn't really pay very well for it. So it was kind of a thing where, once you're making the transition, you have to decide, is this something I really want to work hard for and try to make some money, because I'm not really getting paid very well for it right now.
Yeah, that's right. Kid actors, unless you're somebody's nephew, or unless you're well tied in, it takes a lot to get into those circles. There's a lot of like meet and greets. You got to it really takes knowing people, and to get to know people, there's a lot of stuff that comes with it. And, I'm not that much of a person that I don't really want to go out and socialize a lot. And, as a kid, I'm like, as I'm growing up, as in my teenage years, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And my agents and my managers are like, you have to go to this, you have to go to that. And I'm like, why can't I just go to auditions? And if I'm good enough, then I can get the role. And that's not how it works. So you have to be in certain circles. You have to go to certain functions. You have to go and meet casting directors. You have to go and meet producers. You have to go to these parties. You have to do this. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. They're like, I'm just going to go to Hollywood and I'm going to do some auditions and I'm going to book a major role. That's not how it's going to happen. And I have a lot of friends that are still in acting that are doing really well. And, even them, there's a lot of stuff that they had to do that they wish they didn't have to do. And, none of that stuff I was willing to do. And so at the end of the day, it was like a breaking ways with my manager and my agent. I was supposed to show up to certain functions, and I didn't feel comfortable and I didn't want to do them. And so they both let me go. And that was pretty much it. I was like, that's the final straw. I'm done with it. So I left. But everybody has their own stories. And if you have family that are into the industry and they know a lot of people, then you're better well off. But when you're coming from not knowing people and trying to jump into it, there's a lot of other stuff that goes on that, people should be, you don't need to be doing, And
was your parents, what was, you were already 16, but were your parents, did they want you to stay in it? Were they supportive of whatever you wanted to do? Or I guess what was their overall thoughts, given that they weren't necessarily the one that kind of pushed you in that direction? You kind of found it on your own. So what did they think when you all of a sudden was in a Disney Channel movie and all this kind of stuff?
Well, my parents owned a couple wedding chapels in Las Vegas. My parents are like very entrepreneurial. My family's always had money. So that's one thing that unlike other people, I didn't have to worry about finances. So it was something that, I like doing. So all that extra stuff, like going to those events and going to those parties, and meeting people, I didn't have to do it because I didn't need to act. So I've never been without money. So I'm lucky in that regard. And my parents have always helped me start businesses and business ventures, which have made me quite a bit of money. So even when I was in my 20s, I owned, 2 companies. And then, they were just like, Ches, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. They're like, if you like to do it, then continue to do it. But that's just something a lot of people don't have the luxury of saying no. And I could say no. And that's what was my downfall in the acting. I was just like, I don't want to do it. I don't need to do it. I don't need the money. I don't need to be a waiter and all that stuff. So my parents were always 100% for me of, doing whatever I wanted to do and being successful. That was their main goal, is how do I make my son successful? And if it's not making you happy, then they were like, just don't do it and quit. But the actual acting itself is a lot of fun. It's everything that's behind acting that is not fun. I wish that, the kids that are going to start acting or want to go into acting, that they can experience the fun of it and not all the bullshit. But I think that's a lot of that stuff's coming to light these days. And I think that'll happen in the future. But more of these kids are getting into, you can be a YouTube star, you can do all this stuff on your own, or just like you and your podcast. If you get recognized and you get a certain amount of following, you can make the same amount of income. So as you see in TV, the TV ratings are going down. The YouTube ratings are going up. The same thing for podcasts. You can get someone like Joe Rogan or Tim Dillashaw. You can have millions and millions of people watching you. That's more than that are people that are watching the Super Bowl. So I think that the whole industry on the internet is so much more powerful, and it gives kids and it gives people another opportunity to be able to get that kind of freedom, get that type of success, get that type of money, and not have to put up with all the other stuff that the industry is putting in. And these other companies like Netflix and these other avenues, instead of TV executive type stuff, you have a better opportunity of finding success than actually going to Hollywood. You can do it now from wherever you're at. I'm in Texas. So wherever you want to be, you can actually, if you put in your energy and stuff into it, like you're doing with this podcast, you can actually find a tremendous amount of success and notoriety and stuff like that. And you don't have to put up with the other stuff. So yeah, if your parents are behind you and help you and you have a great support system, you can definitely do whatever you want to do.
So just a couple more questions. You talked about how you didn't necessarily like back then getting recognized. I mean, knowing now and kind of remembering, I can tell you look relatively similar, but not similar enough that I would think that it's a super common occurrence. But do you get recognized at all?
I get recognized by women in their 30s.
Okay, so, I'm sure that makes your wife super excited. That and mostly it's just people on Instagram or something like that they saw the 13th year and then it has a link to my Instagram or something like that. But out in public, in Texas, it's only women that are in their 30s that'll recognize me, because I got a beard. I got tons of tattoos. So I look, nothing like I did when I was a little kid, but I guess there's always something in the face that people can recognize you from. For sure. I want some Texan in his big pickup truck to come screeching up and like, oh my gosh, are you from the 13th year? You're my idol.
No, I get it at bars. Really? I'll be sitting at a bar and like a wife or something like that. They'll be like, oh my God, hey, did you do that movie, the 13th year? And I'm like, yeah. And then they geek out for a second and their husbands hate it. But yeah, it's mostly women in their 30s, like my age.
Right. That's funny. What does your wife think about that? Obviously you met her way after this. And it's such kind of an odd thing to have happened. I've talked to some people that like did short little things like memes or short acting. They've moved completely past it, but just occasionally they're drawn in to do something goofy like this podcast or cooking with Christy Carlson Romano, some of these weird things. So what does your wife think when one day, you're working a home show and the next you're drawn back into something you did when you were 16?
Oh, she actually, how we met, she had a crush on me from the movie. She's 10 years younger than me. And I met her at a restaurant, and that was it. She had a crush on me. She knew who I was. And I mean, within a couple weeks, she was living with me. But yeah, she loves it. I mean, she loves all the stuff. Christy Carlson Romano, she actually lives here in Austin. And she's a friend. Ty Hodges did her show and then said, was like, oh, I did her show. And I'm like, oh, she just asked me to do the same thing. And he's like, oh, just go and do it. So yeah, I think like the Disney people sort of stick together. I'm still friends with a lot of people that I know from Disney, and every time I go to California, I still hang out with them all. Columbus is a really good friend of mine. We're going to barbecue when I go back there. Hopefully Ty, after he gets back from New York, he's filming a movie there right now. But yeah, she loves it. And she thought it was, funny when all my Disney friends showed up to our wedding. All of her and her friends were like geeking out.
That is pretty cool. That's pretty cool. No, there's something about, I guess, that 13th year that the two main people, you and then, oh goodness, what was it? Courtney Draper. You both kind of, I don't know what it is about that movie, but soon after you both kind of just went off the grid. So apparently that was all you needed. Yeah.
It was just after that, and then the working with Disney, Courtney had the same type of experiences I had afterwards. And she also, I think, sort of did the same thing. Now she has 2 babies and is married. And she's always traveling. She's in Dubai or she's doing her own thing. But I think that's that era of kids. There was just a lot of other stuff, that was going on. And, people would want to force you into working long hours or, force you into doing meetings or, like I said, that there's a lot of people that don't have the greatest intentions for kids. And if you don't have the right surroundings around you, then that could really get you. For me, I always said no to everything. And that's why I ended up not acting. I think Courtney did the same thing. I feel really bad for the kid that played the bully on the 13th year. He actually, you could look him up, but he didn't do so well. So, there's a lot of kids that had vampires around them that they didn't have the right people around them in that place. And that time frame, there was a lot of kids that were going through the same shit. And nowadays, all this stuff is coming out. So I feel bad for a lot of those kids that were coming up. And then now, I think everything is going to be a lot better for actors. But yeah, man, that movie and that era, there was just a lot of kids that were coming up at the same time, and not a lot of internet, right? Not a lot of Instagram. There was no Instagram and Facebook, and not a lot of talking to each other unless you just had each other on your little sidekick. Wow. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting time. I think the next generation did a lot better. That was the Zac Efron generation. And, they all did really well. Right. For sure. Yeah. So what are you up to these days? Obviously it's been almost more than 20 years since, that particular movie. So what have you been up to since then? I know you talked about some businesses. Yeah. So me and my brother, owned a window washing company, in California. We had, like 250 storefronts. And so we ran that for about 15 years. And then we sold that off and we both moved here to Texas. My brother opened up a gym, and then I started doing with house remodeling. And then I got into customizing homes. So now I have my own business where I customize living rooms and kitchens and bathrooms and anything that you see inside the house that somebody wants nice and plush. That's what I do. So I have a manufacturing company out here in Texas, and I have my own little ranch out here. Been here for, 3 years out in this spot, but I love it, man. I love being in the country. My parents live back down there on the back 40. And it's a family affair. So we just keep close. My wife can do as much shopping on Amazon as she wants, and whatever she wants to do. And this business just keeps me busy. So we work, I work about 7 days a week, 16 hours a day almost. So yeah, it's called the Shelf King. You can look that up. You probably already have, but we're starting to send. We now just got into, so I can send custom closets, media centers, all that stuff nationwide. So that's what we're doing, which is a big push for us. So that should be coming out in the next couple months. So the same thing as like California Closets. I think everybody's heard of California Closets. So we're doing the same exact thing, except I'm shipping the closet directly to your door, and then we can have a handyman come and install it for less than half the price of any of the other competition. So it's something that no one else is doing right now. And so I have one other partner that I'm working with, and we're going to be nationwide with it. So we're excited, but it's been just a long road of trying to get stuff together, a lot of moving parts. But I love this. I love working with my hands and building, and this sort of anything that has to do with building or is always been a big drive for me. And being a businessman is something that even as a young kid, I never thought that I could do because of my dyslexia, and I wasn't really good in school, and I had to go and do homeschool. So I was like, man, I don't think this acting thing isn't for me. And I was like, Mom, I think I really want to become a businessman. I want to see if I can succeed in that. So it makes me happy to know that, that without all the schooling, you can still make a lot of money and be able to do it if you have the drive for it, just like anything else.
For sure. No, I did look up the Shelf King. Didn't want to completely talk about it without, you mentioning it, because I did notice, at least now, that it kind of is focused in the Austin area. So I didn't know exactly how far it extended. So happy to hear that you're extending and so if for someone who is listening to this and in the next few months are interested in that, where are they going to go to find that? And two, you said that your biggest fans now are 30 plus year old women, and I'm sure they like closets. So I guess the question is going to be, are you willing to sign a piece of that closet for the 30-year-old gal before you send it?
Actually this week, two of my clients recognized me from the 13th year as I was installing closets. So yeah, I actually took pictures with them in the closet. And then one in their kitchen. So yeah, of course. But yeah, in the next couple months, the Shelf King website is going to be completely revamped. I'm having it's being built right now, so it should be done the next month or two. But then people can give the dimensions of their closet or their kitchen or a media center or garage, or the inside of their cabinets if they want drawers. And then they can pick what they want. We do 3D rendering on the website. And then after that, they do a deposit, of course, and then we ship it out on 4x8 pallets directly to their door, and then have it installed. And then people can just order it from there nationwide. So anywhere in the United States, we're going to start with and see how that goes. It's going to be a lot of advertising costs, but it's well worth it, and we're really excited for this next year to come.
No, that'll be awesome. But yeah, no, I mean, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So, I don't know, you are kind of off the grid, so to speak, but how can people connect with you should they want to, or should you want them to?
Yeah, if people want to say hi or something like that, I always respond to people on Instagram. I get so many fans that are just saying, hey, I loved your movie, or you changed my life, or something like that. And which is weird, but okay. But yeah, if you just go to my Instagram, Chez Starbuck, you can send me a message there, and I always reply to people. I think it's really nice. And it's amazing that people are still watching the movie. It's great that Disney Plus put it on there as well. I still get residuals, so thank you, Disney Plus. I'm getting those things monthly. I got a big upcharge after that. So send me a message on there, and I'll be happy to respond to anybody.
Well, very good. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I really appreciate it.
You too, my man.
And that was my interview with Chez Starbuck. I guess we should say Cesare Sarnella now. We learned a little bit more about his name at the beginning of this interview, but really enjoyed speaking with him. I do want to point out towards kind of the end when we started talking about Shelf King. I did interview him a month or two ago, so we did kind of talk about things coming out, in the next month, the next 2 months. Some of that is very well probably out already because it is a little bit of an older interview. So check out Shelf King should that be of interest. Definitely be on his website. That's how I found him. Really, really quality work. If it's something that you want to get more organized or want some of those aesthetically pleasing details that he can provide, definitely say check that out. Amazing guy, and he does amazing work as well. But hope you enjoyed this one. Hope that, like I was mentioning in the beginning of this interview, that if it was part of your childhood, just like it was mine, to Friday nights watch those Disney Channel original movies, it was just a cool situation to be able to talk to somebody who started one of those movies, who did a lot of really, really cool things as a teenager, and with the opportunities that this movie provided, and now still doing a lot of really, really amazing things. I always like to kind of hear, the where are they now story, and this is a happy story for sure. He's doing some really cool things still, so thanks for being here. I thank Chez for being here. Do check him out on Instagram at Chez Starbuck. Check us out on Instagram at Not Enough Podcast, on Facebook, on jacksonhuff.com. We're everywhere. Tell a friend about this podcast. Always would appreciate that. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate Chez being here. Take it away, Chris.
This has been Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff. Thank you for listening. Be sure to join us next time, where we will interview another amazing guest who is sure to make you laugh or make you think. Or, hey, maybe even both. But until then, keep being awesome.